This reminds me of the track meets when Foz was actually jumping. The high jump, oops, excuse me. This reminds me of the track meets when Foz was jumping. The pit would be here and people would be everywhere, and there'd be one long line that went to about Poling Hall, and Foz would be out there rocking, getting ready to run through. That was after he'd perfected the style. I'm here today to really talk for our classmates, class of '65, and those great years with Foz. We all came in together as freshmen. There was a difference. The tall, skinny kid from Medford who had the unusual jumping style, there was a difference in what he thought and what we all thought. None of us thought we could change our position, change our sport, change everything around us and make it something better. And Foz always did. It didn't necessarily have to be the high jump. He looked at things in general around the world and did that. When we got here in '65, Foz had already been involved in the Fosbury flop, but it wasn't even called the flop by then. He was still working at it. And I don't know whether you've heard how it happened, but it's maybe the most interesting thing of all. He was jumping as a sophomore in high school in Medford, a big, as you know, athletic school and with a great athletic history. And Foz was trying to find, himself like we all do, and where his sport was, where he was good. And he tried football and basketball, and he was high jumping. And his max height was 5'4" at that time. And he was the scissor guy. You know how you remember the scissor, and you'd run parallel to the bar, and you'd go up in the air, and your legs would scissor, and you'd go over and come down, and you'd be standing up when you came. And Foz was able to go 5'4" there, and he was in a meet, an 8-way meet in Grants Pass, an invitational, and he'd never scored a point for Medford at that point in time, right, Foz? And he's at the meet, and he finds out that the first height that he's jumping at is 5'4", his max, and he's lucky enough to clear it. And as he clears it, he hits his bottom on the bar, and he thinks to himself, my feet get way over this bar. I've got to get my butt higher. And as he got to 5'6", in midair, Foz leaned, laid back on his back, flipped his butt up in the air, and went over. It was literally described later as a decision that he made in midair as a sophomore in high school. I mean, really, it's the truth. He made 5'6", made 5'8", made 5'10". He went 6 inches higher than he'd ever gone before in that meet. Nobody knew what to call it. It was the flip. They were even tried to rule it as illegal, saying he didn't go off of 1 foot. All kinds of different things, but he kept getting better. He kept changing it. He went from a sideways run and then forward, and then it came to a big J, and he got farther away and increased his speed because he knew that speed could offset force and power and give you a higher height. So he made all these changes, and when he got to Oregon State in 1965, he ran into a bunch of guys in his class and our athletic teams that believed they could do a lot in those days, but nobody believed they could change their position, they could change their sport like Dick Fosbury. We watched him, and he was a sense of pride for us as athletes at Oregon State. Dick was a part of what we did as an athletic department, as every team from track on down. It was truly remarkable. Foz was so close to our football team, to make extra money, he held the chains on the sideline. He was there when we beat SC 3-0. He was, a very special friend to so many of us that we made him, as a part of our teams, we made him an honorary Giant Killer several years ago. He's been to all our reunions and comebacks and so forth. And when this happened, we all said, nobody killed Giants like Dick Fosbury. He was an amazing guy. You've heard the way he performed in the Olympics and the trials. He had the trials actually stolen from him once. He won it in LA, had to go do it again because of the altitude levels at Echo Summit. Did it again, once on your last jump, I recall, and then won it in the Olympics. And it was a lesson to everyone. That year in '68, when he started to jump, there were the 45 best jumpers in the world. I believe 44 used the straddle. One used that jump. I think there's an analogy made of the Fosbury flop that Dick finally named in '68. And someone said, if you imagine going going for a bicycle ride, learning how to ride a bicycle while you're putting the bike together. That truly is how this came about and how he developed it. Everything here was Dick Fosbury. He also, with Bernie Wagner's help, finally, after he and Coach Wagner worked out there what kind of stride, what kind of use he was going to make of that long jump, this became a great high jumping school. John Ratatich, Steve Kelly, there were many, and they all followed suit. None of them were floppers when they got here, and they all followed Foz. I could go on forever about him and talk about all the things he's done and what he did in a tough time. The Olympics in '78 were a special time because it was a different kind of an Olympics. There were near boycotts, there were racial issues. Dick was a part of all that, and he's always stood socially on this campus, even in school, for justice. And I think that's what made him special to us. He was always different. It wasn't just his high jump. That was different enough, but it wasn't just the high jump. He was different in so many ways that we all loved and we revered. So I want to, it's my pleasure, is the way I should say it, to introduce a guy who's my classmate, who changed his sport, changed the high jump, and changed the way coaches and players relate forever. In every sport now, players will take the lead and have ideas, and that's because of this guy, our teammate, our giant killer. Dick, come on up, man.